So we now come to the working part of our meeting today. And first of all, to discuss the role of women in various organizations, it's my immense pleasure to introduce Miss Anne Applebaum. She is a columnist for the Washington Post. Her history of the Gulag won her the Pulitzer Prize, and privately, the wife of the Polish Minister of Foreign Affairs, Radosław Sikorski. Anne Applebaum, the floor is yours.
Dzień dobry i hello. I'm going to speak in English, but I am bilingual, so I hope I will be able to conduct this conversation in two languages. I should start by saying I am not usually a fan of discussions of the special role of women in human rights movements, because women are human, and the role that they play in human rights movements is really in many ways the same as the role played by men. Nevertheless, in the case of Iran, something wrong? I wasn't loud enough. I think the case of Iran is special because the treatment of women the official treatment of women by the government of Iran in fact amounts to really grotesque violation of human rights. Iranian women do not have the same right to testify in a court of law. They do not have the same rights under family law. They are not treated as equally by the Iranian legal system. And so for that reason, I've asked to start today, to start this discussion, I have asked Ladan Borumand, as well as Mariam Hosseini-Kaf, to begin the discussion by describing a little bit what is the special role of women in the Iranian human rights movement. Ladan lives outside of Iran, but she is a very active participant in the human rights movement through her website, and which she runs with her sisters, which records every incidence of human rights violations in Iran since 1979 that they have been able to record and document. She's also somebody who translates many important human rights documents from English into Farsi so that they can be made available to more Iranians. She will also be translating for Mariam, who is a member of the Women's Cultural Center in Iran and was very recently in the country and was in Iran during last spring and last summer's demonstrations, so she will be able to speak more directly about the situation there. Ladan, why don't you begin?
Thank you very much.
This is very informal. Nobody has prepared speeches, or not very prepared.
Thank you so much, Anne. And we would like really to thank the Community of Democracies for this amazing opportunity, because it's so...
Can't hear me. Sorry.
It's so important for women rights activists and human rights activists right now in Iran to know that the world cares about them. So it's really a symbolic move. As someone who has monitored human rights abuses for 30 years now, I will give you a quick historical perspective on how the women entered the field of civil rights movement in Iran and what their contribution was in changing the face of politics in our country. And then I will try to be very short because I think the testimony of Mariam is much more important. So I will just give you the frame. Perhaps those of you who are older, like me, may remember in 1979 when the veil became mandatory in Iran, women poured out onto the streets, and that was the first big demonstration of women rights activists in Iran. But then the Great Terror came, and the violence and executions by hundreds and thousands. For the 80s, the women disappeared, literally, from the face of Iranian politics. And anti-women laws were implemented one after the other, as Anne referred to. Then in the 90s, with a little bit opening up, the fall of the Soviet Union and totalitarianism, there was a space created where women tried to conquer the social action and initiative. They started to organize in little NGOs. They had social works helping with women who were really suffering from the situation. And slowly they start addressing the government and formulating their demands through articles, newspapers, women's rights movement. But the first time we saw them again politically active as a subversive force was on June 12, 2005. That is the first time that the Iranian women came again onto the streets, because for 8 years trying to address the reformist government, they couldn't get anything. And they had this huge structural legal obstacle that didn't allow them to move a little bit forward against discrimination. So their idea was, okay, the government doesn't answer to us, we will turn to our society. We will call upon the society, upon women, upon men, to get together our forces. And this is perhaps was the most significant moment of the birth of civil rights movement in Iran, because activists said they will strengthen their force by getting together. Exactly what you said when you started this meeting. A year later, they started to campaign against stoning, starting against discriminatory laws. A year later, for the anniversary of June 2006, again they came onto the street, and this time they were really very harshly repressed. They were beaten, arrested, and as a result, they realized that the government doesn't allow them to go onto the streets and reach out through gathering and demonstration to the people. They thought their strategy, they launched the 1 million signature campaign. And this time, they wanted to address one by one other women, get them to sign a petition against discriminatory laws. Again, the government started to harass them, and they continued again. And just to tell you the price they paid for the gathering and their organization, they over 145 of them have been arrested on and off. Over $1,100,000 bails have been posted to get them out. Some of them have been flogged just because they would go out and take a signature from another woman against discriminatory law. What they want, when they were arrested, and here is what makes women different from men in Iran, is that when they are arrested and they are put in prison, when they come out of the prison, they don't talk about their story. They see other women in prisons, women who have been arrested because they have killed their husband, because they were forcing them to prostitution, because they had no choice to do anything. There is no judge for them to go to justice. But when they kill their husband, who forced them into prostitution, then they are arrested and condemned to death because they have killed their husband. So these brave activists would come out of prison with tales of the excruciating stories of other ordinary women in Iran. And that makes them so subversive, because political activists usually talks about politics. Women, when they do politics, they talk about lives, the real lives. And in a way, I think the important impact of women's rights activists in Iran is to bring again, to emancipate politics from ideological debate, and to bring them back to the reality, which is the life, dignity, and happiness of every individual. And that's what I think they have achieved. And that's what also they did during this campaign. They didn't vote. They didn't say if they should vote or not. They just brought their demands to the campaign, imposed it on the candidates, and turned a totally fake elections into a real democratic, in discourse, a real democratic campaign. And that is how they have changed the face of politics in Iran.
Thank you, Ladan.